Hello, my name is Ann Brock. I'm from RightStar Systems. Today I want to walk you through a particular Remedy asset management demo. This demo flow is based upon something a customer asked for. They had some very specific requirements, and based upon what we did for them, we thought maybe it would be of interest for other customers as well. Now, because of the requirements, we actually did everything, almost everything, in the mid-tier client, not in Smart IT. So today we're going to be walking you through this from the mid-tier perspective in a 9.x version of Remedy. The first thing we're going to do isn't actually going to be Remedy. I'm going to talk a little bit about our barcode scanner software. So RightStar does offer ScanStar, which allows you to bring in data through a barcode scanner. We have it available, of course, with scanners and with Android phones as well. We are working on the iOS version. The idea here is that if I need to receive things, I can go ahead and hit receive, go ahead and scan a barcode, and I'm going to have that information be put into my particular CMDB. If I'm going to be just tracking, maybe I'm walking around or verifying, doing an audit, I can do that from the barcode solution as well. So I just want to make sure everybody knew that RightStar does have a barcode solution available, and that's called ScanStar. So if any of you are looking to import assets that way, it's a great way to do it. Of course, most of you will be bringing in your asset information through imports, either from a discovery tool or common delimited files or whatever, and we're actually going to hit a little bit of that at the end of the demo. But we're going to start off in the asset console. So I'm in my Remedy Asset Management Console, and again, I am going to do mid-tier views today, although Smart IT, of course, does have an asset console view as well, but for particular things I want to show today, I am going to be mostly using the mid-tier. One of the things I point out here is it's very easy to see the idea of data sets. The idea of data sets is that when you bring data in, again, whether barcoding it in, importing it in from a file, however you're doing it, you can put it into a data set. You then have reconciliation that merges that into the golden data set. So reconciliation is a process of moving data from a data set into the golden data set or BMC asset. So when you hear us talk about data sets, that's what we're meaning. You can set up additional ones. And to get into the data set, again, we would recommend Atrium Integrator, which is included, and we'll take a look at that toward the end. So we talk about data sets, that's what we're talking about. When we talk about classes and subclasses of computer systems, or I should say configuration items, this is what we're talking about. There is a set of classes and subclasses available on initial install in your CMDB. And you can pop your data into the appropriate class or subclass, and each of those classes or subclasses will have different attributes. We'll be looking at the computer system subclass in just a minute, but just know that each of these may have different attributes or fields based upon the data that's going to be stored inside of them. So a very robust configuration management database, or CMDB, that comes with the Remedy solution. Okay, I happen to have on this browser tab a new server for HR that I built. I could put this data in manually, which I did actually, but I could have also imported it in if I had it somewhere. And when we start talking about those attributes or fields, you can see in the computer system class, these are the kinds of things we might want to capture. What kind of a system type is it? Does it have reset capacity? Other things as well. As much as you can, bring these in from your discovery tools, but if not, you can also enter them manually. But there are other things I can do on this particular thing. For example, there is a full asset lifecycle status here. So you can see we can move it through from ordered, received, etc., and track what's been going on with it. Because, of course, for auditing purposes and just for knowing if something's in inventory, possibly, so you can use it again, versus it's deployed so you can't use it again, important to have that status set appropriately. There are, of course, location fields that you can use in here, and various date fields you can use to track things as well. An important tab is the People tab. Here I'm going to see a variety of relationships. So I set this up and said, Joe is using this box. It's a server, but I'm saying Joe's using it. But maybe it's supported by the Asset Management IT group, IT support group. So they have particular things they can do with this asset that if they weren't in that support group, they might not be able to update it, for example. Then I say information technology is using this. So the information technology is using this server as well as Joe. Maybe IT is supporting or doing things with it. So they've got a use by relationship. and then HR actually owns it. HR paid the money for it. So if I am going to ever repurpose the server, I need to know that HR owned it originally. So some nice information you can get on this People tab as you build it out. The other tab I'm going to point out here is around the financials, where you can start tracking various costs against the server. Not just purchase price, which obviously we have, but also you could have, if you're doing some support on it, you could track those costs as well. Plenty of different cost types that you can track in here. And if you wanted to, you could even set it up with a depreciation schedule so that you can track depreciation. We expect most of the time people are going to be doing this in the particular HR system or ERP system, I should say. But if you wanted to set up a depreciation schedule, you could here. I set it up as straight line. Other ones are available as well. There are a lot of things you can do in Remedy Asset Management and tracking your configuration items and seeing what's going on. Now let's say I'm on this asset, and I'm on this asset because, well, something went wrong with it. I can easily get to the knowledge base up here in the global search up here in the top right. So if I type in HTTP 500, maybe that's the error I'm getting. I can go ahead and see there's a knowledge base article here, and it might be able to help me fix that particular error. Got lots of things I can do in here, may help me out to maybe get that error out. So knowledge base is part of the IT service management solution as well. So it's a great way to build that knowledge, and it's accessible pretty much from everywhere. So that's just tracking assets, keeping them, knowing what's going on with them, who's using them, finances, etc. Let's dive into a little bit more that Remedy Asset Management gives you. And we're going to talk about contracts. So the idea behind contracts is you want to go ahead and link your assets to various contracts in the solution. So we can see here on the Contracts tab, this server is connected to a couple different contracts. In the Remedy Contract Console, these are the out-of-the-box contract types that we offer, or BMC offers, but you can create additional contract types if you want. And the contracts are going to be fairly similar when we go to look at them. There are some specific things around each of them. But if I'm looking at this server maintenance contract, I've got some general stuff, including when it expires and when to notify somebody. Here's who I'm supposed to notify. And again, I could see if there are any related contracts to this one, any payment terms or anything financials against this contract. And then finally, what assets does this cover? It's only covering one configuration item so far, but obviously I could add more if I want to. I will say specifically that lease has some interesting workflow behind it. If you have a lease contract, at the end of the lease contract time, it can actually create a change record with the appropriate attached CIs, and so that somebody gets notified that they have to go out, find these lease CIs, and bring them back. So some interesting things. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and show these are the out-of-the-box contract types that come with the solution. So now I'm going to dive down into one particular kind of thing, and that's software license management. There is a software contract, but software has a whole lot of stuff around it. So I'm here on my software asset management console. I'm looking at what are called certificates. I can either view contracts, I can view certificates. I'm viewing certificates right now. And the idea is every contract can be linked to one or more certificate. So if I come over here and I'm going to view my software contract, I can see much like that other contract we saw, it's got some various stuff that you do with it. It's got the relationships of what configuration items are linked to it. And then here I can see that it's got one license certificate so far. When I go out to buy more Visio licenses, I can create another license certificate to say how many I've bought. I can also then group my certificates, which means we don't care which certificate the license got bought on, or keep them ungrouped, which means I bought 50 on certificate A, 75 on B. If I run out of the 50 on A, I can't then borrow from B. So grouping or ungrouping is available. Particularly, I want to point out all the license types we do out of the box. So you can track software in a lot of different ways. So your discovery tool goes out and finds software, brings it in. The software license management tool knows how to rank that in terms of under capacity, over capacity, or over license, under license type things. You can add additional types through a license wizard if you want to, but the key thing is there are a lot of types just out of the box that you can track. Now, in the case of this particular Visio certificate we were looking at, we can actually see the contract status is out of compliance. And if we go down and look at this license certificate, we can see we've purchased 4, but we've deployed 5. So yes, we are definitely out of compliance. I can look on the Software Assets tabs to see those, and those are basically done through a license job that runs based upon the data that the discovery tool comes in and reconciles and normalizes. It attaches these to the appropriate contract and increments or decrements appropriately. I have some compliance details over here. So I can go ahead and see that I should have gotten a warning when I only had 3 left, got another warning when I only had 1 left. I ignored those warnings, and so we become under licensed. So important in terms of working with your vendors and ensuring that you're within compliance. So that's how software license management at a very high level works. Data comes in, data gets attached to contracts, things get incremented and decremented, and hopefully the right kinds of notifications get out so you never run into being under licensed. And you may also find out you've bought way too many licenses and maybe you can turn some of them in. So that's another very important feature on asset management. We're next going to dive into cmdb, Configuration Management Database. This is what's underlying all the stuff you can do with your assets is, of course, the power of the cmdb. And I'm going to go ahead and log in again. I have a very long timeout on this one. I typed my password incorrectly. Try that again. There we go. So this is a new cmdb console that just recently became available. And we can see that it's meant to give you a glance, give you some ways to look at your cmdb without being in that mid-tier interface. And for those of you who have been in the Atrium console, without being deep in that Atrium console. So I can see right now that I've got some CI exceptions in terms of integrity. If I drill down on that, we can start seeing that I've got a lot of orphans, right? Got a lot of orphan exception types here. So dashboard is a high-level overview of stuff I might be interested in. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff on this console. I'm not going to go through everything. There's a couple I wanted to hit because I liked them. One of them is CI updates. Well, this is telling me that my web server, my billing service web server, and my new server for HR have both been updated. I'm looking at the last 7 days. You've got some different date ranges here in the top right that I can look at them at. And, of course, you've got the totals across the top where you can go ahead and select which ones you want to look at. I kind of like that. It's a quick way to see who's been touching my configuration items, or at least what of my configuration items have been touched, so I can see what's going on. You can also start managing some of your normalization rules and other things through here as well. So if you go into, let's look at data set configurations. Again, I'm not going to hit every option in here. I'm trying to remember which one I was going to offer. You can see here some identification rules. How am I going to identify them? This is really around the whole reconciliation and normalization. When I get a new data set and I've got something new coming in, what is my priority going to be? Which data set do I trust? And how am I going to normalize that data so it goes into the right place and gets the right kind of product cats against it? Now I'm back looking at my updated configuration items. You can see here I can actually launch the Explorer from this. So I just click on that. I can go ahead and see that Explorer view that we've seen so many places within the ITSM suite. So it's going to go ahead and draw that picture for me for that billing server. How's everything tied together? So that's also available from that cmdb console. So again, this is somewhat of a new feature. Might be worth looking at. If you want to upgrade to the latest version, this is going to be available to you. Now that cmdb console that's new is great step forward, right? It's a lot easier to look at stuff, see what's going on. But sometimes you do have to come into the core Atrium core console. I know BMC is working to go ahead and continue to improve this, allow you to do more things within that CMDB portal. That's an easier interface. But the CMDB core console, of course, is still around, still helps you do things. You may want to come into Explorer and look at things. But today, just again for purposes of time, the main thing I want to do is talk about integration. I talked about bringing data in through the scanner, but you can also bring it in through data feeds, of course. An Atrium Integrator is the way you're going to do that. And what I think is kind of cool about Atrium Integrator is some of the things BMC has set up around it. I'm going to start up a new Atrium Integrator job, and it's going to walk me through this. I don't have to be a genius. I've read every CMDB manual in sight. I can just go ahead and walk through this. First thing, of course, is where is my data? I'll just call this a test job. and I've got a comma delimited file I've already set up of my data assets. Probably you're going to go to some kind of database or a discovery tool, BMC's tools or other tools, but in this case I'm just using a CSV file. It's going to be brought into the cmdb. And this again, we see those data sets, right? We've got all those extra data sets in here. I'll bring it into Alan's sandbox, but that's how you're going to be able to bring your data into a sandbox, and then you can check it out before you reconcile it to make sure your import happened correctly. So when you're first starting to set up an import, you want it in a sandbox temporarily, you're looking at it, you're going at it. Once it's done, then you set up that reconciliation job to automatically move it to your golden data set. Now, this is what's cool about this. You see these templates? You don't have to think through everything and how it's related. BMC has put together a set of templates. So if I bring in a server, that means I want to bring in servers, OS, product, yada, yada. You can see them here. And I don't have to think about all the pieces I might want to bring in. Then when I hit next, it's going to go ahead and say, okay, this is for the server. Where's the disk drive stored? Where's the IP address? What relationships do I want? So if I want to bring in all those relationships, I go ahead and say, here are all the relationships I want to bring in. Don't have to bring them all in, but this is a demo. We're just kind of going piece by piece. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and start mapping to computer system. Remember that HR server we were on? This is how I'm going to map data into that computer system, and I bring it in from my CSV file. So the name of it is going to be CI name, or maybe product name, however I want to call it. I'll just go ahead and use CI name, go ahead and map them, and that's what I'm going to put into that field. I think I have company over here. My mouse is having some fun with me today. There, I knew I had company. And again, go ahead and map. I can even map literals into here. So maybe availability, I just want to put is a yes, and then I can go ahead and map that. So very easy to start building from that from the data set that you're pointing at. Where is it going to go into the CMDB? These templates are just awesome. They really help you as you're setting up your Atrium integrated jobs. Okay. A couple things I do need to do here. What is the key one? I'm going to go ahead and put name as the key. And then I can have some transformation options available. Do I only want to do new or updated columns? If you have a date field, which most of your data sets will, of course, you only want to bring in the change stuff, right? You don't want to bring everything in every time. So if you did that, you go ahead and say yes, put it in which is a date field. I don't happen to have that, so I'm going to go ahead and say no. So you map it, you say which records you want to bring in, and that's for the computer system class. But remember, I had a whole bunch of classes in that template. Now it says, okay, what field is holding the operating system? And again, I've got stuff here. Now my comma delimited file didn't have a lot of data in it, so I'm not going to walk through this too much more. But those templates make it very simple for you all to set up those jobs. And then once the jobs are set up and the data's in, you're comfortable with it, you can then set up a reconciliation job, normalization job, get that pushed into the golden data set, run those on a scheduled basis. And that's why we talk about the power of the Remedy CMDB, because it does have all this stuff in it that you can do to make sure your data, whether it's coming from one source or many sources, gets put into the golden data set correctly. Okay, the final thing we did in that particular demo is, of course, we hit on reporting. I'm going to hit that link from Smart Reporting. You all have probably seen Smart Reporting before. You can absolutely use it to go against your assets in your CMDB. There are some dashboards available. And then, of course, you can create reports as needed. BMC does have a pre-built CMDB dashboard, has some information on it, but of course I could always come in and browse my reports. And run an existing report. So look at Remedy operational reports for asset management. I'd be able to run any of the existing reports. If you want to go ahead and create a report, again, I think most of you have seen Smart Reporting, but maybe you haven't, but pretty easy to come in and create a report as well. I want to create something around asset management. And it's going to let me have all the various fields over here that I can go ahead and bring over into a report. So maybe I want that status. life cycle status. Let's just go ahead and bring over a status field. Maybe I'm going against my lease contract, drag fields, build the report, and do what I need to do. So again, pretty robust reporting tool. You've got all the classes available over here, the different kinds of CIs that you might want to go ahead and search and do things with. And then you also have the idea of relationships. So if something is related to something else, you're going to be able to capture that as well. Okay, so here is the report I've been building. I just did a quick pause of the recording there and built this to save a little time. It's got OS manufacturer, the CI name, the status, person role, and full name. And I'm going to do a few things in this report to clean it up a little bit. For example, I might want to go ahead and suppress duplicates. I can go ahead and format this and suppress duplicates. Now I don't have that repeating over and over and over. That's one of the things you can do on this report. You can also see that I've got some person roles on these that just really aren't defined. I don't have anybody attached to them. That was that people tab we saw in the CI. So I pulled in person role to go ahead and filter. I'm going to go to advanced because I only really care about assets that are somehow being managed or used by someone. So I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to say where it's not null. Now y'all may actually want to do a report showing you where everything is null, because that would be a bad thing, right? You want people to be using or managing or supporting it. But in this case, I'm just going to look at where the person role is not null and bring that in. So now I'm only seeing those CIs that actually have somebody managing them, approving them, or using them, or whatever. So pretty easy to go ahead and modify these reports and do what you need to do. So hopefully what you saw today was useful to you in terms of a Remedy Asset Management demo. And if you do have any questions, contact RightStar and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you so much.